Hey everyone, welcome back to the Investor Financing Podcast. Today we're sitting down with SBA lending expert Beau Eckstein to go deep into one of his most complex and impressive recent wins, a $6.2 million SBA loan approval that funded a franchise, included the real estate, and covered full build-out. This is the kind of deal most borrowers don't think is possible. Beau is going to break down exactly how it happened. Hey Beau, how's it going?
Going well.
All right, tell us about the $6.2 million deal. What kind of franchise was it and what made it so unique?
So the borrower was actually found me on YouTube, and which is great. A lot of people do, which means if you put content on YouTube and you talk about relevant stuff, people will actually reach out. Happens every day now. So the gentleman had applied to a local bank, and he got pushed back because part of the plan was to buy a building and then and add 2 stories. He was buying an existing building and adding 2 stories. On the top story, he was actually going to move into that condo on the top. The particular lender said, "Oh, you can't do that," and declined the loan. We were able to navigate it and find a lender that was okay with it. We had to kind of change around the square footage. It has to meet certain benchmarks to be eligible for, this was an SBA 504 loan. So we navigated that, quickly got him a term sheet or a letter of interest. And then a couple weeks later, we were able to get him a loan commitment. And then we went through the planning process to get the plans fully approved. Months later, we were able to, we went back and forth with the SBA because it's a 504 and it's a second underwriting process. But essentially, we got a little over $6.2 million in total loan proceeds funded with one of my reliable bank partners. And so a lot of times people go to their local bank and they think, hey, I have a banking relationship. This gentleman owns another business. But that's not usually the best idea, especially if there's some hair in the deal. Usually, if you work with a broker like myself or somebody else, they can help you navigate and find better terms and get you to the finish line, essentially, right? Like, does that sound good? Better terms get you to the finish line. That's the goal of a good SBA loan broker. So usually there's ways around everything in SBA. I mean, unless it's the business is not eligible because of SBA guidelines. So it's really just being understanding the challenges and then figuring out how we can get around those challenges to the finish line. Essentially what we did on this transaction.
So you mentioned this included the real estate and full build out. How did you structure that within the SBA guidelines?
So we can do ground up construction. This was a addition essentially. So in order to get the financing, you have to have plans approved. This gentleman had the opportunity to buy the building, so obviously we didn't have the plans approved at the time. So he ended up being able to get short-term bridge loan, so a year loan to get all the plans approved. So that's eligible to take that out once plans are approved. So we got him a commitment from the bank. They understood he was using a short-term bridge loan to acquire the real estate and enabled him to have enough time to get the plans approved. Once plans were approved, you're able to finalize the valuations, the appraisals, and get to the finish line. So sometimes some of our bank partners actually will do the bridge financing on some of these deals. They'll act as a bridge lender. Not all the time, but sometimes we do that. We did that on another deal we closed. So there's always a way, even if you're not, construction's a little bit more intense because we have to be shovel ready, essentially permits and plans ready prior to us closing the loan. So sometimes we'll do bridge debt to buy the building or buy the land, and then once it's approved, then we can get everything in place. However, we're already getting a loan commitment, so we know the SBA is there once we get the approval, if that makes sense. That's how we structured the deal.
You mentioned one big hurdle, but what were some of the other hurdles that you ran into with this deal? Were there any other things you had to navigate that were a little weird?
The square footage of the living space had to be negotiated. I think what happened was because it was such a big addition, they treated it as new construction. So We had to make sure the business occupied on new construction 60% of the square footage. If you're buying the existing business, it only has to be 51. So we had to finagle, if that's a word, finagle the plans a little bit to make everything work prior to getting it closed. That was the biggest, I think, timeline. Other than that, he was, a young entrepreneur that was pretty successful. Didn't have a ton of reserves or anything like that, but if the deal makes sense, we can find funding. And, it's not a huge loan, but it's not a small loan. You can do 12, 15, $20 million deals on 504. So it was definitely fun to get it to the finish line.
When you're working with a projection-based loan like this, what do lenders want to see?
Well, it was nice because it was a franchise model. So a lot of the lenders like franchises because it's a system and, it takes out, not that it takes a lot off the weight from an underwriting standpoint, but if there's 200 or 300 successful franchises of this business model, plus there's a real estate component, so you have security. So it's not just all air or intangible. It's actually, you got brick and mortar where we have a senior lien on that brick and mortar. Like I have certain banks that only want to do real estate type deals. So this, having those components of a franchise and real estate made it very appealing.
How did you help your client present the deal to the bank in a way that got it approved?
I do most of my work up front. So I make my money up front, meaning my job isn't to process your loan fully to the end. That's what the banks do. What I do is I figure out how to get the deal done and who's going to get it done. And so I always tell people this. I'm going to be heavily involved in the beginning. In a perfect world, we don't really talk much until your deal closes and I congratulate you. That means I did my job. Now, sometimes there's things that happen and that's not always the case. But in a perfect world, that would be the outcome, that we don't really need to talk as much because everything is going smoothly. The banks I work with, we call them the bankers, we call them BDOs, business development officers. All they do all day long is SBA loans, the ones I work with. The people we work with, you're in good hands. So I know once I do my part, they're going to do everything to get the deal to the finish line because they're compensated typically on a commission basis too. So they're trying just as hard as we all are to get the deal done. You want to get the deal done as a borrower. I want to get the deal done because I get paid typically a referral fee. And the banker wants to get, because they're paid on basis points on total production. So we're all on the same team trying to get your deal done. So if there's a way to get it done, we're going to get it done. So what I do is navigate the waters so I can find you obviously the best terms possible with the least amount of red tape.
What advice would you give to someone who's considering a franchise that includes a build-out or land purchase?
Not to toot my own horn, but just start with going to bookwithbeau.com and having a conversation. And perhaps you already have a deal on the table with a bank. That's fine. I'll say, hey, that's a good deal. Stay there. I'm not going to take the deal if I think you're in good hands. And that's one thing I've always told people. Like, if you just want to run by the deal to me, and also don't just go to your local bank thinking, hey, they're local and I bank with them. Because a lot of times those bankers aren't experts in SBA. I want to get you into the hands of the experts. Where I'm good is getting you into the hands of the experts and getting you to the right fit. That's my job. And I'll help you position it. So, all the caveats like, hey, I'm starting a laundromat. How do I do a business plan? All those steps that you need, I give you clarity along the way. That's where I think my biggest value proposition is, because I know exactly what the lenders and underwriters want.
So you've said it once, I'll let you say it again. How can someone watching this get in touch with you to find out what kind of SBA loan they could qualify for?
Just go to bookwithbeau.com and schedule a call.
All right. Huge thanks to Beau for breaking down the strategy behind this $6.2 million franchise and real estate deal. Deals like this don't just happen. They're engineered with the right plan, the right partners, and the right presentation to lenders. If you're thinking about buying a franchise, including real estate, or just want to explore your SBA financing options, go to bookwithbeau.com and grab a free discovery call with Beau directly. You'll get honest feedback and a roadmap to make your deal bankable. Subscribe for more behind-the-scenes deal breakdowns, and we'll catch you in the next one.
If you're looking to acquire a business, stop scrolling on Biz Buy Sell and visit franchiseresellelistings.com. We'll do a customized search. You can get on our weekly distribution where we're sending new inventory weekly to your inbox. So visit franchiseresellelistings.com and opt in today. See you there. Hey guys, Beau Eckstein here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.